Good morning, students. We had studied previously India's size, location, the physical features of India, the drainage, the landforms of India. Now we are going to study chapter number 4, that is climate. What is the climate and what is the meaning of climate? Okay. Now, first of all, we are going to see the definition of climate. If you are studying the chapter number 4, climate, you have to know the meaning of climate. Climate refers to the sum total of weather conditions and variations over a large area for a long period of time more than 30 years. Means you have to take a large area, okay, for a long period of time. Means more than 30 years, okay. So, whatever is the sum total of the weather conditions, what are the weather conditions and what are the variations? Okay, how is the weather changing? What are the variations and what is the weather conditions? The sum total of both of these over a large area for a long period of time. That means climate. Okay, so this is with the definition of climate. Now, if you are saying that climate is the sum total of weather conditions and variations, so you have to know that what is weather now. Weather refers to the state of the atmosphere over an area at any point of time. Means at a time, at any point of time, over an area, the state of atmosphere. What is the state of atmosphere? Okay. Weather we know that there are three weathers, that is rainy, winter and summer season. Okay, so climate is the sum total of weather conditions and variations over a large area, okay, for a long period of time. And if you are talking about weather, then it is the state of atmosphere at an area at any point of time. Okay, there is not a fixed time, that is a short period or a long period. At any point of time, this what is the state of atmosphere refers to weather. The elements of weather and climate are the same. Okay, both the elements, that is the elements of weather also and the elements of climate, both are the same, that is temperature, atmospheric pressure, wind, humidity and precipitation. These are the elements which are for weather also and which are for climate also. Okay, you may have observed that the weather conditions fluctuate very often even within a day. Okay, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's summer, means sometimes it's cold, sometimes it is hot. So the weather conditions varies. But there is some common pattern over a few weeks or months. Days are cool or hot, windy or calm, cloudy or bright, and wet or dry. Means there is a common pattern for a few time. Means if in a week we can say it can be days can be hot and cold. Okay, then, on the basis of atmospheric conditions, the year is divided into seasons. Okay, according to the weather, we have divided the year into seasons. We have summer season, we have winter season, and we have rainy season. The world is divided into a number of climatic regions. Okay, world is divided into different climatic zones. What type of climate India has and why? In this chapter, we are going to study about the Indian climate. Okay, so this was with weather and climate. We have studied the definition of them. Okay, what are the elements which are in weather and climate? Okay, now here we have a word, that is monsoon. The climate of India is described as a monsoon type. Now what do you mean by monsoon type? Okay, monsoon means in this type of climate it is found in the south and southeast, in the south region and the southeast part. Despite an overall unity in the general pattern, there are perceptible regional variations in climatic conditions within the country. Okay, we have a unity in the general pattern. We have one general pattern. But sometimes there are many conditions or many variations in the climate within the country. So you can see now that there are two important elements, that is temperature and precipitation. Okay, it depends upon the temperature also and precipitation also. And in summer the mercury occasionally touches 50% degree in some parts of the Rajasthan desert, whereas it may be around 20% in Pahalgam in Jammu Kashmir. Means obviously you know that temperature also varies. Means like if you are talking about Palampur, then Palambo the temperature can be 50 degrees. And if you are talking about the another state or if another city, then the temperature can be less or more. On a winter night, temperature at Dras in Jammu and Kashmir may be as low as minus 45 degrees Celsius. Trivandrum, on the other hand, may have a temperature of 22 degrees Celsius. So that means that the temperature of every city or every state is not the same. It varies. Okay. Then we have looking for we first discussed about temperature. Then we can say precipitation, which were the two elements of climate and weather. There are variations not only in the form and types of precipitation but also in its amount and the seasonal distribution. Okay, if you are talking about precipitation, then the not only the form changes but also the amount changes. Precipitation is mostly in the form of snowfall in the upper parts of Himalayas. It rains over the rest of the country. Okay, if you are talking about the Himalaya, we have snowfall there, and the rest of the country receives rain. The annual precipitation varies from over 400 centimeters in Meghalaya to less than 10 centimeter in Ladakh and western Rajasthan. Most of the country receive rainfall from June to September, but some parts, like the Tamil Nadu coast, gets a large portion of its rain during October and November. Means obviously the precipitation also changes, right? The coastal areas experience less contrast in temperature conditions. Seasonal contrasts are more in the interior of the country. There is decrease in rainfall from east to west to the northern plains. So this is with monsoon. Okay, that the temperature also varies from city to city. The precipitation form also changes. The amount also changes. Okay, so this was with the definition of climate, weather, and monsoon. We have studied about the definitions, the climate, and monsoon. But now we are going to see the climatic controls, the factors which affect climates. Okay, so there are six major controls. First is the latitude. Okay, there we know we have latitudes and longitudes. So here the climatic control, the first climatic control is latitude. Due to curvature of the earth, the amount of solar energy received varies according to latitude. Okay, means you have the curvature of earth. Okay, earth is a curve shaped. So the amount of solar energy, the amount of heat which we are receiving from sun, it varies according to the latitudes. As a result, air temperature generally decreases from the equator towards the pole. Means whenever we are shifting from the equator towards the pole, what happens? The temperature decreases. As one goes from the surface of the earth to higher altitudes, the atmosphere becomes less dense and temperature decreases. Means if we move from the surface of the earth to higher altitudes, means higher heights, then what happens? The atmosphere becomes less dense and the temperature decreases. The hills are therefore cooler during summers. Okay, summer times what happens? The hilly seasons, the hilly areas are cooler. The pressure and wind system of an area depend on the latitude and altitude of the place. Okay, whenever you are talking about latitudes, we have latitudes and longitudes. If you are talking about latitudes and altitude, altitude means height. Okay, so the pressure and wind, okay, the pressure and the wind, it depends on these two attitudes, that is latitude and altitude. It influences the temperature and rainfall pattern. The sea exerts a moderating influence on climate. As the distance from the sea increases, its moderating influence decreases and people experience extreme weather conditions. This condition is known as contentedly very hot during summers and very cold during winters. Why is it so? Because as we move from the sea, that means as the distance from the sea increases, what happens? The moderating influence decreases. Whatever the influence is there, okay, that is the latitude and altitude, it influences the temperature and rainfall pattern also. So as we move, as the distance of the sea increases, what happens? This moderating influence decreases, and just because of that we receive very hot in summers and very cold in winters. Then we have ocean currents. Ocean currents along with onshore winds affect the climate of the coastal areas. Ocean currents, for example, any coastal area with warm or cold currents flowing past it will be warmed or cooled if the winds are onshore. Now, Here what happens, the ocean currents, the currents which are moving on in the ocean are along with onshore winds, the winds, okay, the ocean currents supporting the onshore winds. It also affect the climate of the coastal areas. So these were the climatic controls. And finally, we have relief, which also plays an important role in the determining the climate of a place. Higher mountains act as barriers for cold and hot winds. Okay, the higher mountains we are talking about, the mountains which have the height more, act as barriers for cold or hot winds. The winds which are coming, it acts as an a high, it acts as a barrier. Okay, the high mountains act as a barrier for the cold and hot winds. They may also cause precipitation if they are high enough and lie in the path of rain bearing winds. The leeward side of mountains remains relatively dry. So these were some climatic controls, that is latitudes, altitudes, pressure and wind, distance from sea, ocean currents and relief. So these are all the climatic controls. Now we are going to come to the topic, that is factors affecting India's climate. What are the different factors which affect our climate, Indian climate? Okay. Okay. So we were studying about the topic factors affecting India's climate. Now in this, we have firstly shown what are the climatic controls. According to that, we are going to see that what are the factors and how do they affect India's climate. Now first, if we are talking about the factors, the first climatic control, that is the first factor which affects India's climate is latitude. Okay, the Tropic of Cancer passes through the middle of the country from the Run of Kutch in the west to Mizoram in the east. Almost half of the country lying south of the Tropic of Cancer belongs to the tropical area. All the remaining area north of the tropic lies in the subtropics, means the Tropic of Cancer passes through the middle of the country from the Run of Kutch to Mizoram. Half of the country, okay, which is lying south of the Tropic of Cancer, means the southern part of the Tropic of Cancer receives tropical area, means it belongs to tropical area, and which is the north part of the Tropic of Cancer, they are subtropical areas. Therefore, India's climate has characteristics of tropical as well as subtropical climates. Means India receives a climate that is tropical also and subtropical, because south part of Tropic of Cancer belongs to the tropical area. It is said as tropical area, and wherever we are talking about the north side, then it is the subtropical area. So India receives both tropical also and subtropical climates also. So this was the first factor, that is latitude. Then we have altitude, that means height. India has mountains to the north which have an average height of about 6,000 meters. India also has a vast coastal area where the maximum elevation is about 30 meters. Okay, means India in the north side, if we go into the north side of India, the heights of the mountains are about 6,000 meters. And India also has a vast coastal area also, which has a height of 30 meters. Okay. The Himalayas prevent the cold winds from Central Asia from entering the subcontinent. Now, the height of the Himalayan mountains are very much high, and they prevent the cold winds, from the Central Asia to enter our India, to enter our subcontinent. It is because these of mountains that this subcontinent experiences comparatively milder winters as compared to Central Asia. Just because of this, that the Himalayan mountains prevent the cold winds from the Central Asia to enter our subcontinent. We have milder winds than in Central Asia, means we have less winters, or we can say less cold than compared to the Central Asia. So this is the reason why altitude affects Indian climate. Then we have pressure and winds. The climate and associated weather conditions in India are governed by the following atmospheric conditions: pressure and surface winds. Okay, the pressure and the surface winds, upper air circulation, and western cyclonic disturbances and tropical cyclones. India lies in the region of north easterly winds. These winds originate from the subtropical high pressure belt. Now, India lies in the region of northeasterly winds. From where the northeasterly winds are coming, India lies in that region. And these winds, that is the northeasterly winds, they originate from the subtropical high pressure belt. Okay, from the subtropical high pressure belt of the northern hemisphere. They blow southwards. The northeasterly winds blow southwards, get deflected to the right due to Coriolis force. There's a force known as Coriolis force. Due to that force, what happens? This northeasterly winds which are blowing towards southward, they get deflected and move towards the equatorial low pressure area. It deflects and it moves to the low equatorial pressure area. Generally, these winds carry little moisture as they originate and blow over land. Means if they are surface winds. So what happens? These winds carry very little moisture because they are surface lands and they are blowing over the land. Therefore, they bring little or no rainfall just because they are surface winds and they carry very little moisture just because of they are carrying blowing towards the lands. So what happens? There is very little or no rain. Hence, India should have been an arid land, but it is not so. Okay, India should be having an arid area, but it is not so. Okay. Now, firstly, previously we had talked about Coriolis force. So here a definition is given about the Coriolis force, an apparent force caused by the Earth's rotation. When the Earth rotates, a force which is produced is the Coriolis force. It is responsible for deflecting winds towards the right in the northern hemisphere and towards the left in the southern hemisphere. This is also known as Farrell's law. The northeasterly winds which are blowing towards south, okay, this Coriolis force deflects them into the right. It deflects to the right, and what happens that it moves towards the equatorial low pressure, the right to the northern hemisphere and towards the left in the southern hemisphere. Now, the pressure and wind conditions over India are unique. Okay, they are unique. During winter, there is a high pressure area north of the Himalayas. If you are talking about the Himalaya section, then there is a high pressure area. Cold dry winds blow from this region to a low pressure areas over the oceans to the south. Okay, at the Himalayas we have high pressure areas. So what happens? These high pressure areas, what happens? The cold the dry winds which are cold, they blow from this region, from the high pressure areas to the low pressure areas which are the oceans to the south. In summer, a low pressure area develops over interior Asia as well as over northwestern India. This causes a complete reversal of the directions of wind during summer. So it is a reverse. Okay. Okay. In summer, what happens? A low pressure area develops over interior Asia. It means inside. Interior means inner side of the Asia, as well as over northwest India. So this this helps to make the reversal of the direction of winds during summer. Air moves from the high pressure area over the southern Indian Ocean in a southeasterly direction, crosses the winter. Now what happens? These air moves from the high pressure area towards the south and crosses the equator and turns right towards the low pressure area over the Indian subcontinent. Now what happens? It turns right towards the low pressure area just because of the Coriolis force. These are known as southwest monsoon winds. These winds blow over the warm oceans, gather moisture and bring widespread rainfall over the mainland of India. That time we studied about the old cold areas, okay, the cold dry winds. What happened? The cold dry winds or those winds which are the surface winds which blow over the land. What happened? They have very little moisture. They have very little moisture, and just because of this little moisture, they give us little or no rainfall. But these winds, which are the southwest monsoon winds, they what happen? They gather moisture and they bring widespread rainfall over the mainland of India. The upper air circulation in this region is dominated by a westerly flow. A westerly flow comes, okay, just because of the upper air circulation in this region, means the southwest monsoon winds. An important component of this flow is the jet stream, the upper air circulation, okay. For this, the force is that is jet stream. Now this is a different another definition they have under this. Jet stream, these are the narrow belt of high altitude and westerly winds in the troposphere. Okay, if we are talking about troposphere, these are the westerly winds in the troposphere and the narrow belt of high altitude. A narrow belt, but of high altitude. The speed varies from about 110 km/h in summer to about 184 km/h in winter. So for winter also and for summer also, the speed varies of this jet stream. A number of separate jet streams have been identified. The most constant are the mid-latitude and the subtropical jet stream. There are many jet streams which are identified, but these two are the main. Okay, so this was with the definition of jet stream. Now, these jet streams are located approximately over 27 degree, 37 degree, 30 degree north latitude. What are the locations of this? These jet streams are located approximately over 27 degree, 30 degree north latitude. Therefore, they are known as subtropical westerly jet streams. What is they known as? They are known as the subtropical westerly jet streams. Over India, these jet streams blow south of the Himalayas. These jet streams, where they blow? They blow to the south of the Himalayas all through the year except in summer. In winter, they are in winter season, in rainy season, they are blowing towards the Himalaya region, but in summer, it is an exception. The western cyclonic disturbances experienced in the north and western part of the country, okay, the western cyclonic disturbances experienced in the north and northwestern part of the country are brought in by this westerly flow. This westerly flow with these winds which are blowing towards the Himalayas, this brings the westerly cyclonic disturbances and in the north and northwestern parts. In summer, the subtropical westerly jet stream moves north of the Himalayas with the apparent movement of the sun. Means with the moving of sun, it also moves towards the north of Himalayas. An easterly jet stream called the subtropical easterly jet stream blows over peninsular India approximately over 14 degree north during the summer months. Okay. Then we have the definition of western cyclonic disturbances. What is the meaning of western cyclonic disturbances? The western cyclonic disturbances are weather phenomena of the winter months brought in by the westerly flow from the Mediterranean region. Okay, if you are talking about Mediterranean region, the westerly flow, the flowing from the western side. The weather phenomena of the winter months, if you are talking about winter, they usually influence the weather of the north and northwestern regions of India. Means this western cyclonic disturbances, it affects the north and northwestern part. Tropical cyclones occur during the monsoon as well as in October, November and are part of the easterly flow. The tropical cyclones. Firstly, we had western cyclonic disturbances, okay, which were in north and northwestern regions, okay. Now we are talking about tropical cyclones which occur during the monsoon as well as in October and November also. These disturbances affect the coastal regions of the country. Tropical the cyclones, this affect the coastal regions. Okay. So this is all for today. Thank you.